my brother and I were first learning to play the guitar and fiddle, we would sit down with CDs of different artists and learn how to play the parts on their albums, and kind of taught ourselves how to play that way. And so not long after we had picked up these instruments, I was probably 16 or 17 at the time. Mm-hmm. And Seth was a little bit younger than me, still is a little bit younger than me. But we really loved all the Brad Paisley records. Our cousin introduced us to his music, and we sat down with all of his songs and attempted to learn the parts, Seth on the fiddle parts and me on the guitar parts, but we just really looked up to Brad Paisley. We would wear the same clothes that he wore and try to play like he played and his band played. And so early on, after we hadn't been playing too long, but we'd been spending a long time with his music, and we decided to go to one of his concerts. And we took our cousin and one of our friends with us. And so I hadn't been driving too long, but we headed over to North Carolina from Tennessee to watch one of his shows. After the show, Seth, our cousin, and our friend was kind of just waiting around as I went backstage, and got to meet Brad, and he was just an incredibly nice guy. And so we were wanting to kind of get part of the drive out of the way between North Carolina and coming back to Tennessee. So we were running low on gas, but we're like, hey, we're just going to drive for a while and try to get out of this crowd. And
we still haven't eaten dinner yet, so
yeah,
we were starving.
So we were going to stop and get some gas and then have some dinner, you know. And so we're driving, and then I pull over at a gas station finally, and this is before like GPS and that kind of thing was really that great, and so you couldn't find things as easily as you can now. So we pull over in the mountains of North Carolina, and the gas station is closed. And I tried to swipe the card anyways, didn't happen. And so we're like, man. And so we're going up the road, and the next gas station is like 5 or 10 miles down the road. I know we're getting low on gas, but there's no stations open. And so we get to the next station, and we can't get gas there either. And then we get back out on the road, we're like, man, we got to find some place that's open that we'll be able to get some gas. And so we're coming up the mountain, and by this time, we're kind of out of the crowd, and we're like the only car on this road. And the car starts to sputter, and we run out of gas. And so we pull over on the side of the road. Finally, the state trooper gets there, and so my cousin is riding with the state trooper, and he goes in and gets a gas can from the gas station and comes back out and starts filling it up. As he's almost finished filling it up, he realizes that he didn't pay for the gas can and just walked out of there with it. So as he's filling the gas can up, he looks at the state trooper and goes, man, I forgot to pay for this. I need to go back in there and pay for it. The state trooper's like, yeah, that'd be a good idea. And so leave it to my cousin to steal a gas can while he's riding with a state trooper. But he went back in and took care of that, and then filled up with gas. We finally got the car gas back up, and we're back on the road again. And we went on up the street and found a Denny's that was open. At this point, it's like 3:30 in the morning, and we're starving, and so we get some big greasy cheeseburgers. They were great, but probably not the best plan for 3:30 in the morning. So after we ate, I got in the back seat with Seth, and our cousin was in the front seat riding shotgun. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to get some rest now. And so we come across the big mountain from North Carolina into Tennessee, and I wake up and all the windows are down. The air conditioning is full blast. And you know when you wake up in the morning, sometimes the alarm clock's playing a song on the radio, and that song will just be stuck in your head because you're kind of waking up to it. Well, I'll never forget this song because blaring on the radio was "That's the Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia." And so I look up and our friend is driving, but I noticed that Seth's asleep, our cousin who's riding shotgun is asleep, and I'm like, hey man, trying to talk to our friend, and no response. And so what was that?
Nah.
So I was like, hey man, and there was no response. And I was like, this isn't good. And so I tapped him on his shoulder because I was like, maybe he can't hear me. And finally he's like, hey. And I was like, hey, what's going on? What's going on? And he said, oh man, I'm just driving. I was like, okay. And I was like, why is the radio full blast? All the windows down, the air conditioner. He's like, man, I'm just trying to stay awake. And I was like, okay, well, are you good? You want me to come up there and like ride with you? And he's like, man, I honestly don't remember much about coming across the mountain. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I didn't sleep the rest of that way. I was like, everybody's waking up. So anyways, we pull into our driveway about 6 o'clock that morning on Mother's Day. The birds were chirping, the sun was coming up. It was one of those times where you're not going to get any sleep either. And so we went in, got ready for church, went to church, and then went to lunch and dinners all day on no sleep. But it's definitely a night that we'll never forget. And we look forward someday to opening for Brad Paisley. Hopefully we won't run out of gas after the show.
Story.